After the death of the Star Lawbringer, the ninth safe zone finally received something that almost felt impossible. Quiet. It was not peace. Not really. The southern wall was still being repaired. Temporary lights were still being raised in the outer city. Every morning, people still lined up before the memorial wall of the Ash 7th team, searching for names that had only just returned to the world. Some names were complete. Some were only surnames. Some were only nicknames, written down by survivors who refused to let the dead vanish twice. Lin Jin stood before that wall for a long time. He understood something there. A name did not bring a person back. But without the name, there was nowhere for grief to stand. Lin Xiaoman was recovering from the cost of the half-door. Every day, when she woke, she held the silver-white door mark in her palm and practiced opening and closing the smallest possible seam. She could now hold the gap steady at the width of a fingernail. To her, that was progress. To Lin Jin, it looked like watching a knife hover over his sister's heart. Shen Qing told him gently that protection could become another kind of locked door. Lin Jin did not answer at first. He only looked at Xiaoman, then at the thin light around her hand, and finally nodded. The 7th team did not rest either. Qin Yu repaired the passage of his lifebound realm. Shen Qing sorted the records of the Thunder Realm and the sky illuminating thunder. Zhou Zan carved new oath shield patterns. He Shan helped carry flowers to the memorial wall. Song Weiyu investigated merchant donations. Ji Yuxing rebuilt the Star Lawbringer's data and the root files of the White Prison ship. Everyone was stitching the city back together in their own way. Then the first strange report arrived. A woman in the eastern outer district woke and discovered that her shadow was gone. She could stand under direct sunlight, under a lamp, even before a medical scanner. The light struck her body, but nothing appeared behind her. She remembered who she was. Her family remembered her. Every database still had her records. But for 4 hours, the world refused to give her a shadow. 2 more cases followed before noon. A retired guard looked in a mirror and saw the room reflected perfectly. Except for himself. A child called his mother's name and forgot it halfway through the word. Then burst into tears because he knew he loved someone but could not point to who. By nightfall, the phenomenon had a name. Return to ruin syndrome. Within 24 hours, the number of cases rose to 173. No one died. There were no wounds. No ordinary pollution waves. No visible starbone infection. Yet the 9th safe zone became tenser than it had been during the starbone tide. A tide could be seen. A lawbringer could be measured. This was different. It was as if an unseen hand brushed the edge of a person's existence. Erased 1 layer, then calmly handed the rest back. Ji Jiwei joined the emergency meeting remotely and gave the first serious judgment. This was not mental pollution. And it was not simple memory interference. It was a temporary failure of identification boundaries. Ji Yuxing translated for the team. A person remained a person because many things held them in place. Name, memory, body, shadow, recognition by others, official records, summoned connections, and the silent agreement of reality itself. Return to ruin syndrome removed 1 or more of those layers. He Shan went pale and asked the question no one wanted to ask. What happened if all layers were erased at once? Ji Jiwei was silent for a moment. Then she said that such a person might briefly vanish from every system of recognition. Briefly. Song Weiyu repeated. Ji Jiwei did not promise anything. The first incident connected to Lin Jin came from the memorial wall. One of the recovered names blurred. Not the stone itself. Not the ink. But the act of reading it. Everyone could see a mark there. No one could say what it was. The family standing before it started crying without knowing why. Lin Jin placed his hand on the wall. The forbidden ash inside him stirred. In the mirror Fate's sight, he saw a thin gray-white line trying to pull the name into a blank depth. The line was not from the Star Lawbringer. It came from farther inside the door behind Border. That night, a black invitation appeared in the command room. No one delivered it. No camera recorded it. It simply lay on the central table, made of paper that reflected no light. On the front, in ancient royal script, was a message. The fifth seat of Return to Ruin invites the Zero candidate to enter the Remnant Court. Lin Jin looked at the words for a long time, then asked who had taught dead things to be so annoying. The invitation did not burn when Shen Qing struck it with lightning. It did not tear when Qin Yu gripped it. Song Weiyu's shadow blade slid through it as if through water. Only when Lin Jin touched it did a map unfold. The Royal Court Remnant Realm. It was not inside the known sea of Starbone tides. It was not on the outer roots of the Chain Tower. It did not fully belong to any path the White Prison Ship had recorded. It was a broken palace cluster floating deep in the door behind Border. A place once connected to the royal court. Now it held only ruined seats, broken pillars, inverted corridors, and military steles whose names had been wiped clean. Su Wanning's evaluation was direct. The White Prison Ship could approach, but not sail deeply. The Remnant Realm did not recognize the ship as a complete passage object. Qin Yu frowned at the word recognize. Song Weiyu laughed and said that even dead, the royal court was still bureaucratic. Yu Baishuang, who knew more of that old world than she liked to admit, said that the royal court had always been like this. Lin Jin asked if they had all lived in places like that. Yu Baishuang smiled and told him he sounded disgusted. Lin Jin said he was. Luo Qiancho's voice was quieter. The royal court had not been a good place. But once, it had been useful. The nameless soul envoy added that it remained useful only until it began to believe it was more important than everyone behind the doors. Before they could depart, another disaster struck the outer city. A district named Mingchuan Street vanished from the official map. The buildings were still there. Street lamps, damaged signs, temporary warehouses, broken rain shelters. All of it remained visible to the eye. But no camera recorded the place. Patrol teams naturally walked around it, then could not explain why. Residents remembered there was a street, but could not describe what had been inside. Lin Jin stood at the entrance with Shen Qingyi's lightning sewn around his shadow. It was not a battle technique now. It was a blue-white thread at the edge of identity. Inside the erased street, modern buildings had been forced into the corpse of an ancient palace. Warehouses opened onto bone-white archways. Old apartments carried broken royal pillars through their walls. Breakfast shops stood beneath murals whose faces had been wiped away. Then the erased people came. They were not monsters in the normal sense. They wore ordinary outer city clothes and carried shopping bags, tools, lunchboxes. But their faces were blurred. And when they spoke, the words scraped at memory. Why do you still need names? Lin Jin answered with his blade. He did not cut their bodies. He cut the gray-white lines dragging them toward blankness. The Forbidden Soul Realm opened just enough to anchor the street. Shen Qingyi's lightning fixed shadows. Qin Yu smashed through the distorted road. Zhou Zan raised shields for civilians who could not remember why they were afraid. Song Weiyu moved through the remaining shadows, rescuing those half erased from doorways. At the center of Mingchuan Street stood a mirror with no reflection. On its surface appeared the entrance to the Royal Court Remnant Realm. Lin Jin understood then that the invitation had never been polite. The fifth seat was not asking him to come. It was teaching the city what would happen if he refused. So Lin Jin stepped through the mirror. Crossing it felt nothing like entering the White Prison Ship. The ship was a gray river. The door behind Border was a battlefield storm. This entrance was as if someone tore Lin Jin from the surface of the world. turned him over, and pasted him to the underside. For a moment, he could not hear, could not see his team, could not feel the ground beneath his feet. Then Qin Yu shouted his own name and affiliation. One by one, the others followed. Lin Jin, Ash 7th Team, Temporary Investigator. Sound returned. The world stabilized. They were still on Mingchuan Street. And they were not. The street stretched into an impossible length. Behind every outer city building grew royal court arches, broken white pillars, and murals with erased faces. At the end of that impossible street, the outer corridor of the royal court waited. It was quieter than Lin Jin expected. No starbone screaming, no gray storm, no suffocating seal of the white prison. Only a dead palace that still demanded manners. The floor was made of black and white stone, and every stone held a reflection. But none of those reflections belonged to the people standing above them. Qin Yu saw a man in royal armor beneath his feet, holding a halberd and waiting for orders. Shen Qing saw herself on a tower of thunder, lighting a battlefield with no team behind her. Song Weiyu saw herself beside a shadow throne, smiling as if she needed no one. Lin Jin looked down and saw no throne. He saw a blank seat, and a line trying to connect it to him. He raised Wujin and cut the line without hesitation. I came to investigate, he said. Not to inherit. Far ahead, in the depths of the dead palace, something faceless seemed to smile. Beyond the outer corridor, the 7th team entered the first main hall of the royal court remnant realm. It was too vast to be called a building. It looked more like the severed skeleton of a civilization. An inverted clock tower hung in the sky. The ground was filled with nameless military steles. Far ahead, on a raised platform, stood an empty throne. There was no king on it, but the absence was heavier than any ruler could have been. It felt as if all the old rules were still kneeling, waiting for someone who no longer existed to return and command them. Royal court remnant soldiers emerged from both side corridors. They did not attack. Instead, they dropped to one knee before Lin Jin. They called him the Zero Candidate. Lin Jin did not respond. Ji Yuxingyi's instruments immediately detected a weak rule thread forming between Lin Jin and the empty throne whenever that title was spoken. Shen Qing cut the thread with a line of lightning and told everyone not to let the soldiers repeat it. The remnant soldiers acted as if refusal meant nothing. They declared that the court had no king, that the 7 seats were incomplete, and that the Zero Candidate could enter the hall and observe the throne. Qin Yu asked whether this was an invitation or a kidnapping. Yu Baishuang answered that the royal court had always been good at calling a cage a ceremony. Lin Jin walked past the kneeling soldiers. When another one opened its mouth, Wujin moved before the word could leave. The blade did not kill. It cut the title out of the air. The soldier froze, suddenly unable to remember what it had intended to call him. Behind the main hall stood the ruined platform of the 7 seats. Each seat rose like a mountain. The seat of Formless held black gold cracks. The seat of White Bone looked built from countless fragments of judgment. Before the seat of Mirror Fate hovered a shattered wheel of glass. Deep inside the seat of Red Prison burned a suppressed flame. The seat of Life Command was empty, but silver threads still wrapped the air before it. The seat of Return to Ruin looked like a faceless reflection. The final seat was hidden in darkness. Even its outline seemed to be avoided by the world. Ji Yuxing tried to model the 7 seats, but each time his data reached the hidden one, the record deleted itself. He marked it simply as the unrecordable seat. Yu Baishuang did not joke. Luo Qianchu said that was not a door they should touch yet. The remnant soldiers gathered again below the platform and declared that with 7 seats incomplete, the court was unstable. The Zero Candidate could temporarily supervise the royal court. Lin Jin looked up at the mountain-like seats and said that if they called him candidate one more time, He would cut one ruined seat each time. For the first time, the remnant soldiers fell silent. But the old court did not give up. Before the path to the return to ruin corridor opened, the soldiers demanded an entry trial. Anyone moving deeper into the royal court had to prove they had the right to pass before the seats. Lin Jin did not want a trial. But if they ignored the soldiers, more would keep appearing, trapping the team in old law and dead etiquette. Zhang Zhaoyue gave the cleanest strategy. Break through quickly. Do not accept the rules. Do not let them turn battle into ceremony. Zhou Zan raised the oath shield. Qin Yu opened the path. Shen Qing used thunder to reveal the emblems on the soldiers' chests. Song Weiyu cut apart their scrolls. He Shan smashed the stone bodies that refused to fall. A commander in broken silver armor stepped forward. He had no face, but he could repeat the identities the team had declared at the entrance. Temporary investigators, he said, have no authority to investigate the royal court. Lin Jin answered that they were not investigating because the court allowed it. They were investigating because the court had done something that still needed judgment. The battle ended not with a victory shout, but with the sound of old armor breaking into dust. The corridor ahead opened by itself. The return to ruin corridor had no visible end. Its walls, floor, and ceiling were made of mirror surfaces that cast no true reflection. With every step, another possible life appeared. These were not simple illusions. They were lives that felt close enough to believe. Qin Yu saw himself never joining the 7th team. He returned to his clan and became a young master built by resources, praised by servants, protected by family power, and never tempered by a real battlefield. He stared for a moment, then punched the mirror apart. Too weak, he said. Shen Qing saw the version of herself who never met Lin Jin. That version was faster, colder, perhaps even stronger. She stood on the top of a thunder tower, lighting the path for everyone below. But no one stood behind her. No one called her back. Shen Qing closed her eyes, then burned the mirror with lightning. I am not a lonely lamp, she said. Song Weiyu saw herself smiling in a palace of shadows, holding every secret and trusting no one. She looked at that reflection and said the outfit was good, but the loneliness was boring. Zhou Zan saw himself guarding a gate forever, so faithful to the door that he forgot the people behind it. He raised his shield and shattered that future. He Shan saw a simple life in which he never joined any impossible mission. He ate well, slept well, carried nothing heavier than stone and supplies. He looked almost tempted, then saw that in the distance someone fell and no one went to help. He lifted both fists and broke the mirror. Lin Jin's reflection came last. He saw himself seated on a throne made of empty names. No one resisted him. No one questioned him. The city was safe because every dangerous choice had been erased before it could become danger. There was no grief, because grief required memory. There was no betrayal, because betrayal required a relationship. The reflection spoke in Lin Jin's voice. If you rule the boundaries, no one needs to suffer. Lin Jin looked at it calmly. Then he cut the throne in half. No, he said. If I erase choice to stop suffering, I become the thing we came here to judge. The corridor shook. Far away, outside her body, Lin Xiaoman was also pulled into the return to ruin influence through the half-door anchor. She opened her eyes in a room so white it had no edges. There was no door, no window, no brother, no mother, no white prison ship. On the wall appeared a sentence. Without a keyhole, there is no pain. Then a reflection identical to her sat in the center of the room and spoke gently. You are needed because you are the keyhole. If you were not, your brother would not worry. Your mother would not have been dismantled into the ship. Your father would not have been dragged by the door. Xiaoman knew it was an illusion, but the words found the deepest wound. For a long time, she had wondered whether everyone would have suffered less if she had never been special. The reflection reached toward her. It offered a room without pain, without duty, without doors. Xiaomin looked at the blank walls and whispered that a room with no pain was also a room with no one. The silver-white mark in her palm opened a tiny seam. Through it came a thread of Lin Jin's forbidden ash, Shen Qingyi's lightning, and the rough warmth of the 7th team's voices calling identification in the corridor. Xiaomin stood up. She told the reflection that she was not only a keyhole. She was Lin Xiaomin, and the door did not get to define the whole of her. The white room cracked. At the end of the corridor, the team reached a forest of nameless military stels. Each stone towered over 10 meters high, its surface blank and smooth, as if once full of names before someone covered everything with whiteness. In Lin Jin's spiritual wasteland, the nameless soul envoy stood beside him. Beneath the black cloth, a line of light seeped out. The third tone is here, the envoy said. Lin Jin approached the largest stele. In the flash of mirror fate sight, he saw countless name lines pressed beneath it, not only soldiers of the formless seat, but gatekeepers, seal artisans, border patrols, and ordinary people who had once supported the royal court. The seat of return to ruin had not erased only enemies. It had erased the proof that the royal court had once been held up by common people. At the center of the steel forest, a black gold syllable floated before the largest military stele. It was the third tone, but wrapped in return to ruin blankness. To take it back, Lin Jin would have to acknowledge what the stele had buried. He placed his hand on the cold stone. The blank surface trembled, and the names beneath began to knock from the other side. The moment the third tone entered the nameless soul envoy, he did not become stronger. He fell to one knee. In Lin Jin's spiritual wasteland, the black blade stabbed into the ground, and for the first time, blood-colored light leaked from beneath the envoy's black cloth. The tone did not bring only power. It brought memory. Lin Jin saw the royal court before its walls collapsed. The formless seat led the gatekeeping army to seal a split realm door. Outside the door was a starbone tide. Inside the court was argument. Some wanted to seal the door. Some wanted to borrow the door's power to counterattack. Some wanted to use what lay beyond it to reshape royal authority. The gatekeepers bled at the front while the seats argued in the hall. The formless seat planted his blade before the main court and asked them one question. The enemy is still outside the door. Are you truly arguing about who sits higher? The memory shattered and jumped to the night the royal court broke. The return to ruin experiment lost control. Silver threads from the seat of life command severed parts of the record. Flames from the red prison burned half a remnant realm. The white bone judgment arrived too late. Mirror fate saw the truth. But truth seen by one seat could not force all seats to believe. The royal court had not been swallowed by the Star-Lord in one clean bite. It had already broken itself in half. The third tone dragged Lin Jin deeper. He saw the formless seat standing before an experiment field with the seed of return to ruin. In that age, return to ruin still had a face. He looked gentle, clean, almost scholarly. He pointed toward a group of gatekeeping soldiers whose names had been erased and said they were no longer afraid. They no longer hated. They were no longer bound by death. This, he said, is liberation. The formless seat drew his blade. You make murder sound elegant. He answered. Return to ruin shook his head. Killing ends life. Return to ruin ends boundaries. Without boundaries, there is no suffering. Their battle flashed in broken fragments. The formless seat destroyed 3 nullification towers. Return to ruin erased the true names of 17 deputy commanders. At the end, the formless seat sealed the experiment field with his gatekeeping blade, and Return to ruin told him that if he insisted on guarding names, Those names would drag him down. Lin Jin opened his eyes. In a place beyond the steel forest, behind a black-white door, stood an inverted clock tower. None of its clock faces had hands. Around each face circled blank names. The nameless soul envoy said the third tone was still unstable. Its true core was at the top of the tower. But sealed inside were the final memories of a group of gatekeepers erased by return to ruin. To stabilize the tone, those memories had to return. Even briefly. Ji Yuxingyi's face went pale after reading the data. A memory return would trigger backlash from the remnant realm and might drag all of them into the night the royal court collapsed. Qin Yu asked if they could avoid watching. The nameless soul envoy was silent. Lin Jin answered for him. No. Power was not free. If they wanted the third tone, they had to face the price hidden inside it. Shen Qing fixed everyone's shadows with the Thunder Realm. Zhou Zan raised his shield. Song Weiyu set retreat lines through the shadows. He Shan guarded the clock tower entrance. Lin Jin drove Wu Jin into the base of the tower. The third tone shook. The world overturned. They stood in the royal court's collapse night. The sky above the court was torn open by split realm doors. The gatekeeping army fought in layers. One line sealing doors while another was erased behind them. The erased soldiers did not die in the ordinary way. Their names vanished first, then their comrades forgot who had been standing beside them. Finally their bodies became blank silhouettes and dissolved into the stones. Qin Yu clenched his fists until blood ran between his fingers. He Shan, who had never enjoyed complicated theories, understood this scene perfectly. Someone had been holding the line, and the people behind them had forgotten to remember. Lin Jin heard a gatekeeper laughing through blood. The man said he did not need glory. He only wanted someone to tell his daughter that he had not run. Then Return to Ruin wiped his name away. The memory tried to close. Lin Jin forced it open with forbidden ash. One name returned, then another, then dozens. The inverted clock tower screamed as if the entire remnant realm resisted the act of remembering. When the third tone finally stabilized, the nameless soul envoy's black cloth split at one corner, revealing a single eye. It was not the eye of a god, not the cold eye of a weapon, not the shining eye of a seat. It was tired, heavy, and full of guilt carried for too long. Lin Jin understood then that the envoy was not a blade. He was a person buried beneath too many names. The third tone's power was not destruction. It was definition. In the past, formless could obscure phase, making enemies unable to name or locate a target. Now, with the third tone, it could temporarily fix names and relationships shaken by Return to Ruin. That made it a direct counter. Return to Ruin noticed immediately. The walls of the clock tower filled with blank handprints. They reached for the team's shadows, trying to blur each person's identity. Qin Yu's role as path opener flickered. Shen Qingyi's boundary of lightning thinned. Zhou Zan's vow as a gatekeeper shook. The third tone rang. Lin Jin spoke each name, not as labels given by the court, but as choices made in battle. Qin Yu, the one who opens a road others can follow. Shen Qing, the one who lights the boundary so no one is erased. Zhou Zan, the one who guards the people behind the door. He Shan, the one who carries weight when others are about to fall. Song Weiyu, the one who walks in shadow but does not abandon the living. Ji Yuxing, the one who records what the world tries to delete. Zhang Zhaoyue, the one who chooses the cleanest path when fear demands noise. Lin Xiaoman, the one who is more than a keyhole. The handprints froze. Then the sky above the remnant realm turned. The seat of Return to Ruin no longer attacked with only illusions or old rules. Every no reflection mirror fragment above the royal court turned toward the steel forest. A gigantic gray-white reflection fell from the ruined seat. It had no complete body. It did not need one. When the return to ruin echo descended, there was no pressure, no roar, no killing intent. There was only a blankness that made people forget how to resist. Qin Yu raised his fist, then briefly forgot whom he meant to strike. Song Weiyu stepped into shadow, then forgot where the shadow led. He Shan wrapped his arms around a stone pillar, then did not know why he had chosen to hold it. This was not control of the body. It erased the definition of action. Ji Yuxing activated the identification loop, but even the mechanical voice dissolved halfway into emptiness. Shen Qing bit down and forced lightning under everyone's feet, only to see the edge of the Thunder Realm shaved thin. Lin Jin stood at the center with Wujin in hand and the third tone ringing through the nameless soul. Envoy. Return to Ruin's echo spoke without a mouth. Names are pain. Bonds are wounds. Boundaries are cages. Lin Jin answered that boundaries were also where people reached for each other. The echo pressed down. For a heartbeat, Lin Jin saw an easier world. No names to lose. No grief. No guilt. No need to protect anyone. Because no one was separate enough to be harmed. Then Lin Xiaoman's voice came through the half-door seam. Brother, do not let it make loneliness sound kind. The third tone rang again. Lin Jin cut upward. The blade did not destroy the echo. It carved a line through its blankness and forced the remnant realm to recognize one fact. The seventh team stood there because they chose to. The echo withdrew. No one celebrated. Everyone knew that had only been a test. Zhang Zhaoyue ordered the team to rebuild their identity. Anchors on the spot. This time, names and positions were not enough. Each person had to say why they stood there. Qin Yu spoke first. He used to think opening the road meant charging ahead. Now he knew the road had to be one the others could follow. Shen Qing said she did not light Lin Jin's path alone, nor the enemy's line. She lit the boundary where none of them would be erased. Zhou Zan said he did not guard the door itself. He guarded the fact that someone still stood behind it. He Shan took the longest. Finally he said that he did not understand many rules. But if someone was about to fall, he would hold them up. Song Weiyu smiled and said she stayed because shadows were only useful when they brought people back. Ji Yuxing said someone had to write down what the world wanted to forget. Lin Xiaoman, speaking through the half-door, said she was not only a keyhole. She was the person who chose when a door should open. At last, everyone looked at Lin Jin. He looked toward the faceless seat deep in the remnant court. I am not the royal court's king. He said, I am the one coming to judge it. The third tone became steady. And somewhere far above the broken palace, the empty throne cracked.